Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Eternal Sonata playthrough. We've made it to Andante, which is the home of the rebels, Andantino. And it's quite cool, because it's this underground, cliff-based waterfall village type dealio, which I just feel has got a really nice design. Now, Andante, the musical term is just at a walking pace, so that's 76 to 108 beats per minute. And it's fitting that Andantino live in Andante, because Andantino is slightly faster than Andante, although in some cases it can be taken to mean slightly slower, because it's 80 to 108 beats per minute. So that sort of varies, but Andantino and Andante are pretty much interlinked. Which is quite cool. And if you talk to this guy a couple of times, he'll give you a free heal. And in a game like this, which doesn't automatically heal you after boss fights and all that jazz, I love a good old free heal. Like, it's an absolute godsend. But yes, we have only gotten allegretto, falsetto and viola to play with right now, but that is fine. And I'm not sure whether we can get anything decent from this session yet. Evidently not. But we can find a score piece in here, so it was certainly worth popping in. And yeah, so we've got like these three characters. They're the ones that we're going to have for the rest of the chapter, because we are actually nearly there. We've just got another dungeon, and then chapter 3 is complete, which is quite nice. And the dungeon that we're about to go to is a pretty interesting one. So, I'm quite excited, to be honest. Now, since we are here, might as well go into another musical term that we ran into. So, Falsetto mentioned that the house where they were staying was on the edge of Lake Reverb. Now, a reverb, or a reverberation, is the persistence of sound after sound is produced. So, it's sort of like an echo, but it isn't an echo. Because an echo is something bouncing back at you. So, say, when you're in a cave, like we are right now, and someone went, "Hello!" and the noise kind of bounced back at you, so you said hello, the walls would bounce hello back at you, and you sort of have hello, 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 and that sort of thing. A reverb is created when a sound or signal is reflected, causing a large number of reflections to build up and then decay as the sound is absorbed by the surfaces of objects in space, which could include furniture, people and air. It's most noticeable when the sound source stops but the reflections continue, decreasing in amplitude until they reach zero. So basically they just keep getting quieter until they reach zero. And it's completely dependent on the frequency of the initial noise, the length of decay, how long reverb lasts for, and whenever you're dealing with architecture for particular spaces, if ever you're looking at a concert hall, they will often be designed to achieve the optimum amount of reverb in the space, so that the performance sounds as good as it possibly can. And I mean, if you have listened to pretty much any song on the radio, there is always a bit of reverb added, and also to a lot of musical instruments as well, because it gives everything a nice, rich sound. I don't know, it's difficult to explain, especially when obviously it's a little bit on the technical side of music, because it's psychoacoustics and acoustics, and obviously I am in no way, shape or form an expert on that. In fact, I'm not even a beginner in the art of reverb. But it can be really awesome when used correctly. It can be used over much, and what you create can sound pretty weird. But it can help. I, for one, am always a big fan of natural reverb, so you will have seen, or at least you will have potentially heard me singing on the channel numerous times. A couple of times via me recording into my microphone in my room, and other times where I have been performing live in a theatre space. And I have always preferred the sound of my voice in those settings, and in general they've just always sounded better, and it is because of the natural reverb in the space. Because as it is, my voice is pretty, well, it's a bit raspy. It's a weird ass voice, like nothing is ever going to change that. But when you put it on a stage and you are projecting out into a big concert hall or a big theatre, or even just a small theatre, because the sound has got perhaps a bit further to like, I'm really butchering this explanation. But I suppose because it's got a bit longer to decrease, and that sort of just makes everything, it just sounds better. Why did I pick a game that's so clever with its use of musical terminology when I have no idea what I'm talking about? Oh, I'm a daft sod. But either way, here we are in the Lento Cemetery, which has got a really interesting mechanic. So there's this thing called the Goblin's Grudge. It's a type of fog that prevents you from going anywhere. The only way that it will ever dissipate is if you have the correct lights on the candlesticks at that entrance. So the entire dungeon is spent taking lights from one candle to another and trying to get the right combinations to be able to get everything. It can end up being a little bit frustrating if you don't know where to go, or if you don't have any idea as to what is just ahead. But just follow good old little old me, and we'll get you through it. Because even with a guide, I still ended up messing up slightly. So it is just one of those things. Now, it's actually quite funny because, well, it's not funny, but it is. So obviously this place is called the Lento Cemetery. It's very, very fitting, because lento means slow or slowly. It is also, in music, a passage or movement marked to be performed slowly, so you've got the adverb, adjective and noun of it. But yeah, basically it's a song that's going to be played really, really slowly.
You better pull your head in.
So, well, not really, really slowly, because really, really slowly would be larghissimo, which is 24 beats per minute and under. Lento is just slowly, which is 45 to 60 beats per minute. But the reason that I think that's actually quite a clever name for a cemetery in particular is because obviously lento cemetery means slow cemetery. And obviously, often people refer to the living as the quick. Whether that's a modern thing still or not, I'm not 100% sure. But it is certainly something that is used in medieval and Renaissance literature. And yeah, looking at the dictionary, it is pretty archaic to refer to the living as the quick. But it is... it is a thing that I quite like.
Did that scare you?
Just because... obviously, I mean, it makes sense, because the living are quick, because they move about, whereas the dead are slow, because, well, they're pretty much stationary, because they're dead.
Hey, I'm over here. Come on.
But it's just a funny little pun, to be honest.
Are you catching on yet?
I mean, basically, the reason I've got quick is living on the brain is because I've watched two versions of Hamlet the other week. One being the Kenneth Branagh film version, and the other being the David Tennant filmed version of the stage production that was done by the RSC. And there's a whole scene with the gravedigger and Hamlet saying 'tis not for the quick, because he's quick-witted, or something along those lines. And yeah, it's just something that's always stuck. There are always like little catches of phrases that you take with you from any sort of literature, I suppose. That's just one of them that's in my head at the minute. And you know, I should say that this cemetery freaks me out. It doesn't really, because it's actually a relatively pretty cemetery. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to be here right now, because obviously this music is actually pretty creepy. But if you just look at all the flowers and stuff, it's just relatively delightful.
Come on, let's go.
Like, if it weren't for the super creepy atmosphere and all the monsters trying to kill us, this would be a very nice place to be buried.
Are you catching on yet? You don't look so good.
Now, I'm not 100% sure what the name of the song throughout this area is, but part of me strongly believes that it's called Who Wants to Die? Or in the literal translation, No, no, I don't die, no. And I am actually correct, it is Who Wants to Die that is the theme of Lento Cemetery. Which, it's just quite a hilarious name for a song and very fitting for a cemetery. Previously we had Woodland Wanderer, which I believe was the song throughout the woodblock groves. And then I believe that Resist and Endure is played while you walk through Andante. I have to say, this is turning out to be quite a useful little bit of the Eternal Sonata Wikia, is that they do actually have, in certain instances, samples of the songs, and they do point out where said songs are played, and that is just a delight for me because it makes my job so much easier. Because talking about the music of a game is something that I always want to do, because oftentimes it's one of those things that everyone just goes, oh my god, the music in this is amazing, but it's then impossible to pinpoint what that song was, and if you want to listen to it in your own time, you always struggle to go about doing that, because you're just like, well, I don't know what the bloody thing's called. But obviously in a rather unfortunate number of cases, either the soundtrack for a game hasn't been released, and so nothing's got official names, so everyone's calling it something blooming different, or you're in a situation where the song, like the soundtrack, does exist, but it's very difficult to place where each song plays. Unless, you know, you are willing to sit through and just go, okay, that song's there, that song's there, that song's there, and so on and so forth, throughout all of the potentially hundreds of songs that are played throughout a single game. I mean, obviously the reason why so many games have such big soundtracks is because they're often so long, and you need a lot of music to fill up that amount of game. I mean, it's especially true with something like Eternal Sonata, because you're looking at a 30-hour-ish game.
How about we go around?
And I mean, to be fair, it actually has a relatively small amount of music, despite that, because the soundtrack has 69 tracks of music, comprising about 3 hours and 45 minutes, which is not a whole lot. Especially when you compare that to something like Okami, which has a grand total of 218 songs, which in the soundtrack goes across 3 discs.
Well,
No, not 3 discs, 5 discs.
much better.
Which is insane. But the thing that is, like, so with the Okami soundtrack, the thing that's really cool about that is that all of the songs either point directly to an event that occurs in the game,
They're afraid of us.
in terms of the title, or they are, well, they are in pretty much chronological order,
Are you catching on yet?
barring a few of them.
You're a mess.
Well, actually, no, they are pretty much all in chronological order in terms of the way they're listed. And I mean, to be fair, the Eternal Sonata soundtrack is also in relatively chronological order. It's just because the songs are so wonderfully titled. I mean, like, I love the titles of the songs in this game. Jewel of the Heart, Remember Me, Reflect the Sky, Blossom of Life, Mediocrity for All, Underground for the Underhanded, Can You Recall Your Dream? They're all, like, really fun song titles that really do get to the point of what that song means, which is very fitting when you think about Frédéric Francois Chopin naming all of his pieces of music. Obviously they've got like, the official names like OP28 number 15 in D flat major for Raindrops, but it's got that extra title of Raindrops and what that means for the piece. And I know that's slightly artsy smartsy type dealio, but it can allow you to much more deeply understand the song, and I find that just really nice and helpful. And we're about to get into a rather confusing portion of the Lento Cemetery. So we could, if we wanted to, pretty much finish the dungeon right now. Like, we have enough flames to get us through. I mean, to be fair, we probably could have finished things from where we were, potentially. Maybe not quite. But we were pretty damn close. But we do actually have a lot of stuff to pick up. There's a lot of surprisingly hidden surprises, shall we say, littered about the Lento Cemetery. It's why I think some people do find this to be a slightly frustrating dungeon, because it is so heavily reliant on its gimmick of the candles. And hidden secrets are located like either end at the end of each of these cemetery areas, and when you've got to make sure that you're carrying some flames and not others, it can be a little bit painful to make sure you're using the right ones and going in the right direction. And it's moments like this where my brain was just going, right, have I got everything? Am I going in the right direction? Because it's the type of dungeon where you don't want to get confused. You really don't want to get confused, because it will cause you to spend a lot more time here than is absolutely necessary. As I'm sure you're probably about to see in the next part, but it's okay. We've got the green flame, we've got the red flame. Let's go through here and see where it pops us out. And then let's finish off the dungeon. Yay!